war rages. Blood is shed at excessive amounts. But what two forces could be fighting to cause such a tragedy? Who would guess that it was two brothers bound by blood, both infants scared in the dark, without knowing what to do? The North, so-called Yankees, the fighters for freedom and commerce. The other side, the South, so-called Johnny Rebs, were the defenders of tradition and their own livelihood. With these two regions, they tend to think differently, although they cannot live without one another. It was a long and bloody 4 years of war. Brothers fought and died to each other's bullets. This was most evident in the border states such as West Virginia, Missouri, and Kentucky. This was the stage of the infamous brother versus brother fights. For these states, of course, being in the middle, were split up the most because of the diverse population and influence from both sides of the war. These places were the stage of the war in its infancy, the testing grounds of weapons such as the Sharps carbine and the Gatling gun. While these new methods are brought to the test of the tradition of war for the past 200 years, from the view of the supporters of the old way of war, it was brave men in the field fighting honestless cowards in the woods. But from the view of the supporters of the new way of fighting, it was progress of the new age against obsolete ways of thinking. In the end of these tests per se, the new way of technology had won in the end of the first year. The battles in Kentucky, as well as the other border states, were decisive for the main reason of early geographical advantage. The armies of both sides could not cross the river without either losing progress or lives, and both armies knew this. While there are a number of small skirmishes around the border states, very large battles were at Perryville and Harrodsburg. While of course these battles did not have the advanced technologies that were at the end of the war, they had the pre-war methods of lines of soldiers and coordinated pattern firing. After these first border conflicts, the war escalated quickly and raged throughout the land from Pennsylvania to the Gulf of Mexico. Both sides fought vigorously for what they stood for, and the tides of the war flooded both the North and South. But in the end, one side bested the other, and the Union stood tall at Vicksburg. After all of the events of the Civil War, even 150 years after the fateful conclusion of the conflict, we still honour the deaths of the men who fought. These men formed troops and tour the country and do these reenactments for a living, and they travel mainly from the middle of spring to the middle of autumn, touring the country from DC to Jacksonville. By the reenactments of today and teaching in today's classrooms, these men honour the tradition of the war by taking the way that their ancestors took soldiering. These men take the time and money out of their lives to make sure of the preservation of the war and those who died in it.